State Street, Fidelity, and other active managers are buying more Rocket stock going into this quarter. Also, we're seeing some of the largest short sellers for this stock start to cover their short positions. So what I'll do in this video is I'll go over the recent changes in the institutional shareholder list. I'll go over which short sellers are starting to cover their shorts. And then I will also go over the financials of this company. And then at the end of the video, I will give you a price prediction for this stock. So with that being said, let's talk about it. First off, happy holidays. Merry Christmas for those who celebrate. Making this video on Christmas Day, so I'm just gonna make it quickly and then get back to that. So, Fidelity increased exposure by about 1% for Rocket. And we also saw Boston Partners buy into the stock. So we saw 5.8 million shares bought by Boston Partners, which is an active firm. So a big active firm coming in and buying the stock now makes them they're the third largest shareholder. So large shareholder for this company. Good to see that we're getting new large shareholders buying into the stock. And then we also saw State Street buy more of this stock over the past quarter. We saw State Street increase exposure by about 1.3%. We also saw Renaissance Technology, which is a hedge fund, come in and buy more of the stock. So this is yet again another active name coming in and buying the stock. And we also saw Citadel increase exposure by about 137%. So they increased exposure on their calls. And this is very interesting because as they're buying more of their calls, we're also seeing some Fidelity funds buy more. But sticking with Citadel here, we also saw their Citadel, which is a very prominent short seller known in AMC, GameStop, but they're also the second largest short seller for Rocket. And Rocket Company saw their short position in Citadel drop by 28% over the past quarter. We also saw Susquehanna drop their shorts by about 45%. Wally Trading down about 36%. HBK Investments down 58%. Wolverine Trading down 45%. So within the top, 6 short sellers, we saw 5 of the top 6 short sellers cover their positions, start to cover their shorts, and these aren't insignificant numbers. I mean, the smallest short covering was a 28% drop in shorts. So that definitely tells you that the shorts covering that we saw over this past quarter is definitely significant and does imply that Wall Street is becoming more and more bullish on the stock. But with that being said, let's take a look at the short interest for Rocket here. So we can see here that we have 20% of the float still sold short. Definitely a good chunk there. And then we have 4.7 days to cover. So that means that it takes 4.7 days of average volume to cover the shares that are sold short. So definitely is still a good chunk there. And Fintel ranks this stock as the 1009th most likely stock to have a short squeeze out of 4,500 stocks here. So within the top quarter of the stock market in terms of short squeeze likelihood. So that definitely implies that short squeeze is still somewhat likely, although not every single short squeeze metric is pointing to that fact. And then with that being said, let's take a look at the Wall Street analyst ratings for Rocket Companies here. So Rocket Companies has 1 bullish rating on Wall Street and 4 bearish ratings. So 1 to 4 tells you that Wall Street, unfortunately, the general consensus on Wall Street is a bearish one for Rocket Company. So don't love to see that, but as always, it's not the end all be all, but it is at least worth noting. And then we saw Barclays initiate an underweight rating over the past couple months with a $6 price target. So that's kind of the most recent negative price target. Really, I should say UBS is. So we saw UBS assume a sell rating with an $8.50 price target for Rocket Rocket Companies now. So with that being said, though, let's take a look at the financials for this company and give a price prediction. So obviously we don't have a positive PE, but in terms of price to sales, we have a price to sales ratio of 0.49. which is actually below the sector median of 2.4. So that's kind of the only valuation metric we really have. And then in terms of revenue, so we saw revenue drop 53% over the past 3 months. Over the next 12 months, we're projected to see revenue drop 28%. So, yes, revenue is not going to be positive over the next 12 months, but it's good to see that this pace of declines, the downward slope, if you will, is starting to even out, right? So, hopefully that leads to us eventually turning higher in terms of revenue growth. And then let's take a look at profitability. So gross profit margin at 100%. For those that don't know, gross profit just tells you what a company makes for what it sells. It's simply revenue minus cost of goods sold. And then we have cash per share of $7.29. So that tells you that basically half of the market cap is in straight up cash. And anytime you have a company that doesn't make money, you always want to keep your eye on that balance sheet, because when a company isn't making money, they're basically funding their future operations. And really, their cash on their balance sheet tells you how much longer they can fund their future operations. So for Rocket here, we have basically $1 billion in cash. We have about $10 billion in debt. So we have $9 billion more debt than cash, which is typical for this industry. So it's not super scary, but we are burning at about $65 million, or excuse me, I should say $120 million per year to run this business. Given we have $1 billion on hand, tells you that you have roughly 8 years of cash on hand. So 8 years of cash on hand signals to me that we have a significant amount of cash to fund the future operations of this company. So that is good to see that we have adequate cash on hand to fund the future operations for Rocket companies. And then with that being said, let's take a look at the chart and give a price prediction for Rocket companies here. So Rocket is unfortunately coming off to test a major level of resistance, which is roughly where shares had topped out in March of 2022. It's also where shares had bottomed out in September of 2021. Therefore, unfortunately, I believe we see a pullback from this level, especially on the backs of bearish momentum. So, or I shouldn't say bearish momentum. I should say that RSI is overbought, which does signal we could get somewhat of a pullback. So, unfortunately, I think we could probably get a pullback from this $14.90 level down to support at around $10 for the stock. Will we come exactly down to $10? I don't know. Obviously, just my personal opinion, not financial advice, but from a technical standpoint, I do see it as very likely that we at least see somewhat of a drop to around $12. And I say $12 because this level is where shares had topped out in April of 2022. It's also where shares had topped out in August of 2023. So really the most high confidence move would be a move back down to about $12 for Rocket companies. And this $14, $15 level does seem very likely that we will see this level reject over the coming trading days. So I think we see a rejection. We get a move down to support at around $12. I think that would be a pretty good buy zone for this stock. Long term, I do think this stock has potential to go much higher. But personally, I wouldn't want to buy this stock and hold it as kind of a buy and hold until the company turned EPS positive and was able to sustain that. So I'm not diving in long term right now for this company, but I do see the upside potential for Rocket companies. Obviously, no, I didn't talk about the fundamentals a ton right in this video. I have in the past on videos on my channel, so if you're interested in that, check those out. But long term, I do think owning the largest U.S. mortgage originator does have massive potential. This is a good company to own, especially if you're bullish on the U.S. housing market. So for me, I'm not in it right now. I do think we see a pullback from a technical standpoint. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. Helps with the channel a bunch. And I'll see you here next.